Hi there, Christian Henson from Spitfire here with Jake Jackson all the way up from London to Edinburgh. Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
So when we were planning your trip, we were thinking, wouldn't it be great to address the kind of number one questions that are asked?
Yep.
And we've already done one video about what reverb to use, or
Yep.
what reverb's the best, or what reverbs do we prefer. The second question I have, and the most debate I see online, is people's reticence to mix libraries that are recorded in ambient spaces with libraries that are recorded in dry spaces. Which to us, at the coalface, strikes me as quite an absurd concern.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Well, when I mix, I get presented with the sounds that are there. If they've been recorded, well, here we go, let's mix it. And they are 99% of the time a mixture of real orchestra, some sampled orchestra in some form, either separate or in addition, and then some soloists, some guitar, some flute, some banjo in the composer's home studio, anything like that. So it might be some dry samples, it might be some, anything vocal. If I'm doing a Nick and Warren score, then it'll be some very dry violin,
The thing that I often find as a composer is that there is stuff that you just really can't do with samples. Often I would say things like ethnic flutes, shakuhachi stuff. So that's often when I do what I would call underdubs, whereby actually we get them on board very early. And I know this is a process that Thomas Newman employs all the time. He really starts building the live library of kind of recordings up throughout the compositional process. So often you will be confronted with an ethnic flute that's simply, person behind the sofa in the composer's.
Absolutely, and sometimes we record them, but when you get to that stage of the recording, the director goes, not sure I like that quite as much, or even the composer will do it because people live with it and they like it, and it hits the picture, and they may have re-edited the picture against it. You never know. So. You can't re-record it in the beautiful ambience of the hall or Abbey Road. It's just not possible or not necessary.
Why do you think people have difficulty with it and have reservations?
Perhaps they're just nervous, I think, more than anything else. It's just like, it's one of those things.
On paper, it shouldn't work.
I think it's actually relatively straightforward to blend those together and to make it work.
I think that the trap I often find is not blending the real stuff far enough into the sampled stuff. I think it's partly because often the engineer would have recorded the real stuff and therefore favours it. There's a kind of an old school, well, we must bury the samples and it mustn't sound as sampled. So it's always like let the live orchestra, even if it's like only 13 players and there's 60 players in the samples. So I often find that it's just a case of it not being blended.
It's a balance. Balance. It is balance, and then giving. What I find, and we'll discuss now, is to give even the wet stuff a little bit of the reverb, so that your mind is tricked into hearing that, and then when you add the dry stuff with the same reverb, it all just blends nicely. Yeah. So I think that's the trick. Maybe people don't use the reverb on the already. On the other on the wet ones already, don't have to use much, but just a little bit, not so that it swamps it up and makes it all washy, but enough to just get that reverb thinking about the long one.
And I think that we are the brain and the ear is an amazing complex thing, and we're amazing. It's amazing what we're capable of hearing and recognizing and stuff. But really, the minute you start getting things to shape reverbs and stuff, particularly with complex stuff, really we're not capable of really undoing that kind of complexity.
No. The brain ear tricks you very very easily and very wisely, fortunately.
Okay, so we've got this. We're returning to this arrangement, and the reason for that is because part of it was recorded using the London Contemporary Orchestra package, which was recorded in a very, very dry and small room in King's Cross, and the rest of it is about as big as it gets at the Hall Studios with your amazing recordings.
Yeah, thank you. What we're going to do is use our new patented double jug technique for this. And,
for those of you who didn't see the last, this
go
is
watch.
Two types of gravy, two kinds of reverb in a double jug.
The reason for this is I've explained in our videos before.
T-shirts for the next one.
Is I find you get, by blending two reverbs, it sounds less like a reverb. It's just kind of like a fake reverb, let's say. For me, it sounds more real. So perhaps that's the tip as well, is to try using two reverbs. Because
reverbs.
Two different reverbs, because then you get different characteristics, and again tricks your mind.
And it's curious that you've chosen a convolution and an algorithmic, and I believe we're using
We're going to use the Altiverb large hall again, using that from our.
That's the hall in Winchester, Mechanics Hall in
Worcester.
Sorry, Winchester.
And the other one we're going to use is the VSS3 TC, which is the same as the
TC6000,
which is Christian's. So it's Christian's favourite, and my favourite joined together. I mean, what could be worse? What could be better?
And everyone uses the large warm pool, don't they? That is
generally, yeah, that's that. So let's, for the sake of just hearing some things dry, let me just mute these things so we can prove that they are dry. Here's some very short Colignos. Dry. Some dry longs. Pretty cool sounding samples. Here's some.
And then can we compare that to the dry air ones?
Yep. Right there, but you can hear there's no reverb on it. There, I stop it, and then to the longs. So, nice, lovely sounding.
The shorts as well.
There they are. Yeah, thank you. I've already put these levels on, but we'll hear what I've done. We'll turn them on and off. Here you go. So here's our Colignos. So it's not a huge amount there. It just adds a nice space to it. Again, the longs. So I've just gone through and literally just. For me, the easiest way to check how much reverb is on it is to literally just stop it and just hear the tail. And if you want more,
because that's what it's doing.
Yeah. I mean, that's obviously far too much for that sound, because you can hear it.
Not for me.
I prefer slightly drier roast. So there we go, and we've got some of the other things. One of our lovely swarms here. Takes you back to this 17 players dotted around the hall. Fantastic. Yeah. Now let's look at some of this. Let's look at some of this short one, shall we? So here's our dry, and I'll bring it up to the level I had it at. To me, immediately they're the same. They're in the same. They obviously sound different, but they're in the same space.
Yeah, absolutely. The dry ones sound a bit more proximate.
Yeah,
but it gives a sense of depth. It feels like they're a bit more.
It feels like they're in the same room. You know,
Let's hear the shorts, the KX shorts and the air shorts.
That's for sure. So here goes. Here's the shorts again. I'll do the same trick because that's nice. So you still get the nice crispness and the dryness of that thing. So you still get what the reason you program them is there, but you get the space. It's nice. It doesn't. It sounds.
Remember the air shorts as well. I think it'd be interesting to hear the longs, exactly the same process. You'll
notice I use more reverb on the longs because I had to, and versus the short, that's the other reason perhaps people find it doesn't work, is they use the same reverb level.
Yes.
So let's go through, do this, check it, stop it.
Now, there's a very important point why short sounds are more reverberant in an ambient space than longs, and that is because musicians always diminuendo off.
Yes.
So, their release triggers are always maybe like 50% less because their end point is that much lower. So it's really, really imperative that when you track lay stuff or when you're bussing reverbs, that you have different amounts for the shorts and the longs, and that might be a common mistake.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
One pet hate of mine, and please, everyone, if you want your samples to sound real, I might just have spotted something over here, yeah. Christian. Look, what's going on here is there might be... No musician would ever, unless it's specifically written with a... without... They always put a diminuendo on, so make it sound real. I spend my entire life doing that. Immediately sounds
real.
Real. But let's hear those two longs together.
And when you brought the air strings in, they were arguably louder than the LCO, and that balance works.
Yeah, but you get the grain that you wanted in your piece from the thing, but it's from the King's Cross ones. But for me, they feel that they are the same. They are the same, but with their own characteristics.
Brilliant stuff. Well, that's really fantastic advice, Jake, and thanks so much for coming all this way to share that knowledge.
Pleasure.
Brilliant stuff.
Nice one.
Thanks for watching.
Cheers.